Hi guys, my name is Blewett from Qifit. Today I'm going to talk about whole body compound movement in Qigong. This is a facet that is not particularly well done in Qigong. It is not even particularly well done in a lot of Tai Chi schools, but you do see it a lot more in Tai Chi. It is something I harp on a little bit, I will admit, and is the whole point of my Qifit programs, is to show people that Qigong movement actually should deepen and should progress into this whole body, compound, sporting style movements to gain power. And not only power in doing movements fast, but how it actually programs our body to move, say it would if you were an elite athlete. But if you're not an elite athlete, doing it as slow movement still will program your connective tissue to align itself in the same way, albeit not under the same intensity, but in the same way. So, what is a whole body compounding movement? Now, the Olympics are on right now, so this is a great analogy, right? So, imagine you watching the javelin, okay? And someone runs up with their javelin and they get the whole body they get rotation, they get a massive amount of torque, and every muscle fiber in their body is now moving for the maximum amount of power being moved into the momentum of the javelin, being thrown, right? This is exactly what we should be doing in our Qigong, because Qigong is about physical growth of the body and evolution and development of power and tensegrity and how the whole body grows into a more complete being. Now, Qigong is quite often done as an isolated body movement where it's just the arms moving. You can see that my body is not involved in this movement. Now, this is an important part of learning Qigong to begin with, because we need to understand the tracks that the arms move on. And here I'm learning that the arm comes up the center of the body, the hand rotates slowly through that movement, and is now projecting the triqueal bone here on the heart and small intestine meridian by the time it gets to this point, and then it's getting a nice little scoop in. So I'm learning all these different tracks that would require a significant amount of psychological and mental bandwidth to fit into a movement. Okay, another reason why, in that previous video I talked about why we slow movement down, so we can find all these intricate little aspects of the movement and begin layering them and including them into more complex ways of moving. Now, when someone is moving, they're throwing the javelin like a sports person, they're under a massive amount of torque, their whole body is creating force, it's under a lot of intensity. And allows their connective tissue, their muscle fibers, their nervous system, their neurological function, their hormones, their everything, okay, to begin programmed to work under that intensity. And that's what makes an elite athlete as their body can perform under that huge amount of intensity at an extremely high level. Now, when we're doing our Qigong, whilst we're not putting it under the same load, so we're not working under the same intensity, we are still able to program our neurology, our muscle fibers, our connective tissue to align themselves and to grow into the same shapes and structures. Whether A, we're a little bit deficient and our bodies can't work at that elite level, so by using them slower and more methodically and designing the movement into our connective tissue, we're aligning the pathways of our body to begin learning how to move under more intensity and more load. As well as the fact that even if we never want to get to that intensity, we can still design our body's internal matrix, the connective tissue matrix, to be aligned in that way. So even if we're not moving with that same intensity and load, we still have the same fundamental design pattern in our connective tissue, which is super important for aligning all the different mechanisms that work under us. I mean, I've come up with a term that I say, which is you can be either a loaf of white bread, or you can be a wholemeal, whole grain loaf of bread. Which one do you want your connective tissue to be? White bread Or do you want to be wholemeal bread? Now, wholemeal bread, of course, has a lot more fire, a lot more connection, a lot more density, a lot more strength, a lot more power, a lot more nutrition. And white bread, of course, is like crap, right? Don't even understand why people eat that stuff. But that connective tissue of the white bread, the fiber and the whole structure of the white bread is loose, it's weak, it doesn't have any density. The metabolism of that white bread won't be good, not much nutrition. The wholemeal bread has that density and the fiber and the connection and the nutrition and everything you need in it. So even if we're not working the intensity of, say, someone who's throwing a javelin, Qigong is as if you're watching the Olympics, right? And someone throws the javelin and you go slow-mo. And they go, well, imagine using the same muscle fibers, the same torque, the same neurology to get exactly the same movement, power and momentum distribution through your body, the same mechanics, the same mindset, the same way that you breathe. Everything in your body happen in exactly the same way as to do a powerful, explosive, compound sporting movement, just super slowly. And as I said in the last clip, which is probably below this one, somewhere in my feed, Go for a Hunt, when we move slow, we can find the space and time within movement to get all these tiny little aspects that we need to happen. Now, we need to sometimes layer it up from learning tracks of the way that the arms should move. But then how do we do that under more through getting the actual body, the core, the legs, the hips, the pelvis, the feet, the hands, the wrists, elbows, shoulders, neck? How do we get the whole body to perform that compound sporting movement? So when you'll see me in some of my clips, you'll notice that my body is doing movement behind, okay? This movement here is getting my whole body. So even my legs, which I know you can't see, are actually, my legs are sucking and spitting energy into the ground. I can feel it coming up through my glutes and my thighs and my groin, pushing into my hips, powering in through my lower back, rippling up through the muscles in my back and coming out through my hands. This is a compound whole body movement. So this movement could very easily be very explosive if done explosively. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to do your Qigong like that. Of course, as an internal martial artist, I look for how I can gain that full body power. But even if you don't want to train at that level, which is totally fine, doing your Qigong and slowly leveling up the layers of how you move the body means that you can be moving the body in exactly the same way and aligning your whole connective tissue neurology, but without the load, without the intensity. So you're still gaining structural strength and structural power, albeit maybe not with the intensity, but that layering will cause you to actually have a stronger foundation of body movement, of body connectivity, aligning your fascia, allowing more neural connectivity to actually lock into the muscles. So there's a whole heap of extra things that will happen when you begin to move your body in a more integral, more whole body compound movement. And that's what all my Chi-Fit programs go into. And I know it's a bit of a shameless plug, but through what I'm the most passionate about with my teacher training programs is showing people and teaching people how to create how to get this compound movement working in their Qigong and where this fits into the Qigongs that they have, so that when they run classes as Qigong instructors, they can actually have beginner classes, intermediate and advanced classes, moving people through the progression of very basic, isolated body movements to much more compound and what we would call internal body movements, where you can really begin to feel the Qi, which is the way that the body works to produce energy, occurring within you. So guys, thank you very much. This went a bit longer than I wanted to, but there's so much interesting information within this. If I've touched on something you'd like to know more about, please shoot me a message. If you're interested in any of my Qifit training courses, you can find a link in my bio or in any of my pages on any social media. Thank you very much, guys. I'll be running some online classes soon, so if you're interested in Qigong classes, come join my Qifit page on Facebook. Guys, thank you very much. I hope you stay Qifit. Cheers.